Okay, I'm back after about a week of isolation. Been a lot of things happening over the last week or so. We've got fast internet speed over here. Very happy about that. And I just went out and bought this bass. A friend of mine rang up, said he was interested in buying a Warwick Corvette, so I went down to the shop to help him purchase it, down to the bass centre in Melbourne, actually, in South Melbourne. And walked in, and this was on the wall, calling me, going, buy me, buy me. So I did. Look, I've always wanted a Spectre bass. Kind of reminds me of my early Warwick thumb bass that I had. Yes, it's neck through, maple neck through, older wings, flame maple cap, Bartolini pickups, dark glass preamp, gold hardware and ebony fingerboard. God, I sound like a salesman now, but I do like it. It's a beautiful bass, and it's very appropriate because today I'm going to be exploring a fabulous track written and recorded by Peter Cupples called Fair of Thunder. It was recorded in 1981, and the year my daughter Rachel was born, actually. And so early 80s, everyone was crazy about slap bass. It was the thing. Everyone was doing it, and so was I. So here we were in a studio called Flagstaff Studios. John French was the engineer, and John French is an absolute legend in Australian recording. He's recorded everything from Sunbury, live at Sunbury. He's recorded the Dingoes. He's recorded Colin Hewitt. He's recorded the fabulous Skyhooks albums, Living in the 70s. Just a wonderful, very funny guy and a fabulous engineer. A bit of a no-fair engineer was John French. He would absolutely crank things up in the control room and push things to the absolute limit. So I have very fond memories of John, who actually passed away a few years ago. Had a wonderful history with John French over the years. So he was the engineer, along with Peter Cupples, of course, and my partner in crime at the time, Trevor Courtney. Well, later on we went on to form a techno band, but 81 was the other significant time. About 81 for me was I had joined a jazz fusion band called Pyramid with David Jones on drums, David Hirschfelder keyboards, and Bob Vinier on flugelhorn. We had yet to go to Montreux Jazz Festival in 83, but here we were in Flagstaff Studios, which was actually owned and operated by Mike Brady at the time, who had just released the big footy classic, Up the Gazelle. And here's a bit of trivia for you. You got to remember it was the early 80s, and it was the era of tabletop video games like Space Invaders and Pac-Man. And if you remember, Pac-Man had that wonderful sound that went whoop, 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 as they ran around the screen. And that sound is actually in the second verse. It's Hirschfelder emulating that sound on a Prophet 5. Fabulous Prophet 5 parts from David Hirschfelder. Also, a bit more trivia about that studio. Around about that time, I remember a young, I call him a boy, he was just a teenager, Doug Brady, the son of Mike Brady. And Doug Brady, little Doug Brady was in there. Did I say brother? Yeah, brother. What did I say, son? Oh, sorry, brother, yeah. Younger brother. And Doug Brady used to be out in the back room. He was the dubbing guy, dubbing cassettes for clients and stuff like that. Now, Doug Brady went on to actually be the engineer of the very famous John Farnham Whispering Jack album with obviously You're the Voice on it. So it's funny when I reflect back on the 80s, all the things that were happening. Hello, we've got the cops in. We've got a chopper coming in overhead. We had a fire next door in a construction zone. Some stupid with a flare gun burnt the place to the ground. No. Somebody with a welding implement. Apparently there was smoke billowing out of the fourth floor. I was asleep. I was oblivious to it. Anyway, I digress. back to this fabulous song, Fear of Thunder. I do believe I might have played an Ibanez solid body neck through bass, not unlike this actually. I know I didn't buy it, but I remember having it in the studio and listening to the track. It's got that real active 80s slap bass tone, and of course this thing just does it perfectly. So I can't think of anything else to say apart from I've got to have a drink of water. So, Peter Cupples, Fear of Thunder. Are you ready? Here we go. Okay, I had a couple of whoopsies there, but I was trying to play all the other little overdub parts. I suddenly realised that in the chorus where I'm playing, it was a bass overdub with octave divider. Now, the other cool thing that I remembered was we'd recorded this track, came into the studio the next morning to do some more band track recording, and John French is just such a happy boy. He's going, mate, come and check out the track, see what I did with your bass. Sat me down in the control room and cranked it up. And in the middle of the breakdown section, all is higher, all that stuff, the bass comes in out of the blue. Now, I never played that. It's all swirly with flanging. So what he'd done, this is pre-sampling, he'd actually cut a 4-bar loop out of my bass and put it on a 2-track and looped it and dropped it into the track to bring the band back in. So you kind of hear that all swirly kind of fade in, and then the main bass takes over. I remember hearing that and thinking, you've just made me a star. So there's an example of a great engineer taking your part and actually constructing a secondary bass line. Now, the other thing he did, I remember, towards the end where I'm just pumping on the A, all across the end section, if you listen closely, you can hear that bass loop going. Once it's introduced at the end choruses, that is actually going quietly underneath the underneath that melody. I mean, the track was overproduced, ridiculous, but it was the 80s, you know, absolutely fantastic. Well, I thought it was anyway. It was a reasonable hit for Peter over here, that album. I should just slow the track down for you. It's obviously a lot of octave stuff going on. There are hammer-ons and slides, so I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4. Little dead slaps and pops and that one. Obviously I'm just doing that in the chorus. It's a very simple part, but it works. And of course with a big rolling timp roll emulating thunder. There was always lots of percussion stuff hanging around in the studio, and someone decided we better get a timp roll in there to emulate the thunder. I don't know what John French did to it, but he must have, you know, put it through his flanger and put all sorts of weird, probably put it through a vocoder if I know John. Oh, the other part of the track, that's right, the bridge. The chopper rumbles into the distance. Unbelievable. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. By the way, I do thank you, Peter, for reminding me to do this track and sending me down a fresh copy of the CD, which I didn't have. And of course, it gave me a chance to show off my wonderful Spector bass. Spector bass from planet COVID-19. All right, folks. See you later. Bye. That's a wrap.